for? Why do you get a special number?
Going to high school.
So when the cross-country kids are peeing,
Oh, you don't have to pay for that.
Exactly. A little extra protection.
it was the one year they were just they were
Do we
complaining
still get
about.
the extra municipal official
I just
stickers?
assumed.
I believe so.
You also get that? Do you have that on your card?
No.
Oh, you'll drink this one. Bad.
And my son was
Like
skinny.
anyway, just
You're like, wait a minute. You're just working out.
Right.
Hello.
And then it says if you have additional cars, like, am I supposed to do that for my husband's car?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what that means. Okay.
Tomato.
They built a pool.
So he just, it's actually.
It's crazy. You and everybody else.
I've just been putting my face in the window looking at it.
It's just
He's
kind
got the
of
receipt, like.
jaw-dropping when you walk inside there. That used to be Tuesday morning, retail
What
store.
about yourself?
Yeah, it's really nice.
You get the best Christmas gifts there.
Yeah, I'll just do it. I'll just get one for him.
I mean, they,
I wish they did it all from the back,
oh,
but
okay.
you never even noticed
I
it.
haven't read.
You never interrupted anything in the garden market.
I'm off, but
I know.
I'll always
I know.
catch one.
So I used to
trying
work
go,
at the.
trying to go to hockey. That's basically a guarantee.
Remember Yum's
I'll
yogurt?
come in and see him.
So
No,
Yum's
I
was
feel
trying
like
to
it is confusing,
do everything
but I usually
without
go in.
permits or something.
There.
All right.
That's one. You got the people. They seem to pull off the back problems.
Really?
Do some talking.
And what is this? Oh, this is for the specialty.
Well, you had so much to read last time. You need to
Yeah, but this paper is the second part.
give you a meeting off.
Yeah, exactly.
You kind of like.
You guys going away?
We are just gonna go see, well, yes, we're going to see my parents in Florida for kind of a long weekend. Which is why I'm gonna miss the actual Arbor Day ceremony, because that is over spring break.
We'll take it.
No, it's ready to do that?
Yeah.
I'll ask someone tonight.
There's a buzzer.
Wait, is it during spring break?
Mhm.
It's usually at school, but it's not at a school. I mean, that's where they planted trees. So you might still be in school.
Yeah, 'cause it's on, it's during spring break.
The St. John's one that I did was like, they were so into it. They did a really great job. You did a good job. No, I did. It was very nice.
Tick, tick, tick. Mhm.
I had to read that proclamation for 4 years.
Alright.
With trees.
You guys ready?
Yes.
All right. It's 7 o'clock, so good evening. Welcome to this Monday, March 11th, 2024, meeting of the Village of Western Springs Village Board of Trustees. To honor our nation's heroes and especially to honor the individuals who serve and protect our community, please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Clerk Timmick, will you please call the roll?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Avakian.
Here.
Trustee Chen.
Here.
Trustee Fink.
Here.
Trustee Lewis.
Here.
Trustee Naraki.
Here.
Trustee Terrell.
Here.
All present.
Very good. Thank you very much. Well, we have a very special evening tonight. We have a very special recognition, and I would like to ask Director Supert to come up.
Dan's on. Yeah, it's perfect. Bob, you want to come up and join us here too, as well?
Yeah.
Oh, come on. You can sit right here. It's good. Do you want to read the proclamation for you? You want me
Why
to
don't you
introduce?
start?
Okay, perfect. So tonight we're celebrating a very special retirement with the Village of Western Springs. Bob Goodman, who's been working with us for 45 years in the Public Works Department, including some time up through the mid-90s in the Fire Department as well. it's an accomplishment that I think we will never see again in the village. It's absolutely remarkable to have someone of Bob's talent and longevity with us. And I think it's important just to highlight really everything that Bob has touched. I think most residents in town do not realize that they've interacted with Bob and the rest of the Public Works team. They work so effectively in the background that when you don't see them, everything's going perfectly. But Bob covers everything in our department, really. He covers our inspections for both the public side, coordinating with the community development department. He works with the finance department on the installation of water meters and finance and all sorts of water questions. He is there for basically every emergency and every event that we have. I honestly, in my 17 years working here, I don't think I've ever heard Bob say no when we've asked him to come in for some sort of special event. He's there for every single emergency that we have, every water main break. Bob is the most reliable member of the department we have across the board. And his accomplishments are simply remarkable. He has touched everything. The amount of knowledge that he has will truly never be replaced. We're trying to squeeze as much as we can out of him for the last couple weeks here. But he is something very special for the village, and he has been an integral part of this department and everything that it is. And we are going to miss him tremendously when he finally does retire at the end of this month.
Wow, what a career. Well, we have a proclamation naming March 29th, 2024 as Robert Goodman Day in the village of Western Springs. And I would like to read that. All right, proclamation. Whereas Robert Bob Goodman has announced his retirement after 45 years of dedicated service to the village of Western Springs. And whereas throughout his long tenure, Bob served the Department of Municipal Services Public Works Division and also served many years as a paid on-call firefighter in the village of Western Springs Fire Department. And whereas Bob has been an integral part of the village's operations, coordinating the village's Julie locating program, in-house meter installations, public utility inspections, forestry, and right-of-way management. And whereas in his service as an on-call supervisor for the Public Works Division, Bob has acted as a first responder to numerous events within the community, including storm damage, flooding, water main breaks, sewer repairs, and other such events in which the Public Works Division team has provided emergency response to the community. And whereas Bob's expertise, achievements, and contributions have positively impacted our community, his colleagues, and the maintenance of village infrastructure all these many years, and whereas in recognition of this outstanding demonstration of dedication and to celebrate Bob's 45-year achievement as he retires, the leadership will dedicate March 29th, 2024 as Robert Goodman Day in the village of Western Springs. Now therefore be it resolved by the village of Western Springs to proclaim March 29th, 2024 as Robert Goodman Day in the village of Western Springs, Illinois. Thank you so very, very much for your service. Unbelievable. Thank you.
Bob, I won't make you do a speech, but do you want to just at least maybe introduce your family for everybody here who's joined you?
My wife, Pamela. Oh, my wife, Pamela. My son, Joshua. His wife, Alicia. My eldest daughter, Shannon. I'm missing, what, two more?
Well, thank you, Bob. We truly appreciate you, and you are going to be sorely missed in the department.
Yeah. Thank you so much for all that you've done. Thank you. All right. Looking at our agenda, our next item. Well, you are welcome to stay if you would like. I will also give you a moment.
Thank you.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. All right. Oh, that's terrific. And thank you, Director Supert, for that. What a terrific accomplishment. And all of that knowledge and all of that service. We'll move on now to citizen comments. Do we have any citizen comments tonight? Okay, I don't think so. Okay, then moving on to our agenda. Again, this is for the workshop portion of our combined meeting. We will begin with the Finance Committee report from Trustee Chen.
Thank you, Madam President. Okay, I'm gonna kind of talk a lot and present a lot, but I think this is actually a pretty important and big deal. So I'm gonna read the agenda items, and then I'm gonna talk a little bit about what each of these are. So agenda item number A, ordinance authorizing the issuance of waterworks and sewerage revenue bond of the village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,500,000, or in lieu thereof, general obligation bonds, waterworks and sewerage system alternate revenue source, said bonds being general obligation bonds for which real property taxes, unlimited as to rate or amount, may be levied, but which are expected to be paid from the net revenues of the combined waterworks and sewerage system of the village, which includes the village's storm water utility fee, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,500,000 for the purpose of paying the costs of improving the stormwater portion of said system to alleviate flooding in the village. And then item B is call for BINA hearing regarding consideration of issuance of waterworks and sewerage revenue bonds, or in the alternative, general obligation bonds, waterworks and sewerage system alternate revenue source, and new aggregate principal bond amount not to exceed $9,500,000, end parens. Okay, so now I'm going to actually read the memo, which was in all of our packets prepared by Director Mastandona, that I think gives a good background for what these are, sort of the background of the situation, and then I'll go on to talk about what we discussed in Finance Committee and our recommendation to the board. So as a background, the village conducted numerous public meetings during 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023 regarding capital improvements to maintain, enhance, and expand the village stormwater drainage system required to alleviate flooding in the community. These improvements include large projects such as the Springdale Drainage Improvement Project and the Ridgewood Drive Stormwater Improvement Project, as well as other stormwater projects in Western Springs. To assist with funding these significant stormwater projects, the village board approved the Stormwater Utility Fee Ordinance at its public meeting held on May 8th, 2023. The utility fee was placed on the bi-monthly utility bills mailed to residents, beginning with the bills mailed in July 2023. The Local Government Debt Reform Act of the State of Illinois allows for the village to issue alternate bonds, being general obligation bonds payable from the net revenues derived from the operation of the system, which includes the stormwater utility fee. There is no anticipated impact to the property tax levy, as the revenues collected from the stormwater utility fee would be used to pay debt service of the alternate bonds. I'm just going to keep reading because it's really good. It really does a good job of explaining this whole thing. Included in the 2024 budget was the proceeds from the issuance of alternate bonds to help fund budgeted expenditures for the Springdale Drainage Improvement Project, the Ridgewood Drive Stormwater Improvement Project, and other stormwater projects. I don't know, do you want me to go, then there's a whole process for the BINA. Do you want me to go through all those steps? But there's a whole process now about publishing and hearings. And I think I'll skip that part for now, and maybe we can discuss that further. Okay, so we discussed this at length in the Finance Committee. And I just want to say for myself, I want to note that flooding concerns have been top of mind for many Western Springs residents. Many of us on this board have listened to residents and their issues. The capital improvements to alleviate these issues and to maintain, enhance, and expand the village's stormwater drainage system are often complex and costly, as we noted in that memo. The stormwater utility fee was put forth and adopted by the board to address these costly and complex issues. And tonight, the village is taking the first step in the process to look to issue these alternate bonds supported by the proceeds of the stormwater utility fee. Again, this is just the first step to start the process. Any issuance of bonds would be brought back to the board for consideration with final numbers at each potential issuance. But for me personally, after listening to many resident stories and concern, it is of note that the village is acting tonight to start on a path to be able to address these issues. I asked during committee if other projects can be addressed besides the 2 projects that are currently slated for Springdale and Ridgewood, and the answer from staff was yes, there will be funds available after annual debt service payments related to these projects for maintenance and future projects. I also want to highlight that the Springdale project and the Ridgewood project are eligible to receive grant funding, therefore lessening the village's ultimate use of funds for these projects. However, as discussed in the past related to other grant-funded projects, the village often pays for the project and that then gets reimbursed. And lastly, the stormwater utility fee proceeds can also be used to pay for necessary stormwater improvements coordinated with upcoming road projects, i.e. rebuilding a road and addressing drainage issues at the same time. So just wanted to put that all together, and we discussed at the finance committee, and we are recommending to the full board, and I think there will be action taken later if the board agrees at this meeting. So I will stop there. You're welcome to ask Director Mastandona any questions or anything else on that.
Yeah, could you just give a thumbnail sketch of what the Springdale Ridgewood projects are specifically, what they're gonna do?
One, sure. Yeah, so the Springdale subdivision project has been a project that we've been working on for a number of years. It's designed to specifically address flooding near Franklin and Howard Avenue in the subdivision. There is, geographically, it's a low spot in there. It takes on significant portions of water that flow in not only from the subdivision itself, but also from the unincorporated portions of Cook County to the east. What we're doing with that project is implementing some new storm sewer systems in those areas, and then also developing a storm detention system inside Springdale Park, which we are working on in cooperation with the Park District.
Is that the basin?
Correct.
That we discussed?
Mhm.
It's underground?
The sewer system will be underground. The detention basin will be us lowering the park, and that would be, there's no underground detention at that location.
Thank you.
So when do you think construction is going to start?
It would likely be next year. I believe we are finalizing the designs, possible to go out to bid this year as a possibility, depending on various timelines with stuff. Could start this year, but more likely I would think significant work would begin next year.
And this is like the 53 to 5500 block or something?
Yes, it's right around that area, correct.
And it's going to take at least a season.
Yes, correct. And we will also be scheduling some specific construction meetings with the residents in those areas once we have some additional information on potential timelines.
So John, the money in the fund services the bonds, and there's nothing that's put on the property taxes at all?
That is correct, yeah.
And that's what you've been collecting for the last,
Since July.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going well, it's generating information.
Yes, yep. Payments are on time.
A small price to pay for the insurance satisfaction. There's nothing worse than having a flooded basement. I've had many myself, not here at Western Springs, but it's certainly good use of our time and effort.
Yeah. Not to sound dramatic about it, but I think this is going to change people's lives. Like people whose houses have flood 8 feet of water in it, and then they want to sell, but then they can't sell because no one's going to buy their house. I think this is huge.
Yeah, I think we all remember in particular the significant rain events of 2020 and 2021. And the residents, Nicole, or Trustee Chen, to your point, that we heard from at meetings, that this was really significant impact to them. And because of the infrastructure study too, we're all very familiar with the totality of our infrastructure issues, but these are at the top of the list. And again, this is how this has been designed to function. So I think this is a positive outcome, and I think of the best way for us to address these issues and to get started on them.
If there's no other questions, that will, oh yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Point out, this is the first step of the process. If this is passed and considered tonight, we will make a publication in the local newspaper 7 days, at least 7 days from now. And before any issuances, we would come back for approval. Due to timing, for these two specific projects, we may do 2 separate issuances. It is just not to exceed that $9,500,000. So this is just the first step. It opens a 30-day petition window once that publication is published, and then that's when we will go forward in the April cycle.
So that is the vote, or that is the action tonight would be that issuance, that issuance.
Yeah, there's two votes tonight. The mechanics are, there's an authorizing ordinance, so that's on the agenda under the, not under the omnibus, but as a separate action item. That's the document that Director Messendona indicated, creates a backdoor referendum window process, a 30-day period in which the community could file an objection petition and say, we don't want you to go forward with this bond initiative. And if they do, they do. If they don't, then we'll move through the next progression of the timetable. The other action item tonight is what's called a BINA order, a Bond Issue Notification Act order, and that really sets the public hearing for this bond issuance. So the BINA order that you're going to vote on under the omnibus works in tandem with the bond ordinance that you're going to vote right when we're done with this presentation. The ordinance sets in place the window for the backdoor referendum. The BINA order sets in place the public hearing that'll happen on April 22nd. And so those are our two kind of preliminary action items that gets the ball rolling for this bond issuance.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that concludes my report. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you, Trustee Chen. All right, moving on to our next committee, General Government. Trustee Terrell?
I have no report.
All right. Thank you. Next, Planning and Zoning. Trustee Naraki.
Thanks, President Rudolph. I have 2 items tonight. The first item is Lyons Township High School District 204 South Campus, 4900 and 4940 Willow Springs Road, amendment to conditional use permit and fence height variation for building addition and renovations to allow cafeteria and educational facilities expansion. So I want to talk a little bit more about that. At the March 7th Planning and Zoning Committee meeting, we reviewed the application submitted by Lyons Township High School for improvements to the South Campus property, which again is located on Willow Springs Road. The property is zoned residential and has a conditional use permit to enable the site to be used as a school. The Plan Commission has reviewed the application and recommended approval with 8 conditions. The Planning and Zoning Committee also reviewed the application and recommended advancement to this meeting for the full board's review. The modifications the school is proposing requires an amendment to the conditional use permit, which is why the school is here tonight to discuss their application. Assistant Director of Community Development Heather Vallone will provide additional background on the application and introduce the applicant team.
All right, thank you, Trustee Naraki. As Trustee Naraki mentioned, the school is here tonight. The South Campus of Lyons Township High School is here to discuss their application to amend their conditional use permit. School property is a little bit different here in the village, in Illinois, where the zoning of the village and site improvements, such as stormwater management, are under the authority of the village. However, the actual building permit itself will be reviewed and approved by the State Board of Education. So that is why they are here tonight related to their zoning. So I'm going to just give a brief overview of the application and kind of get people oriented. I'm going to discuss where in the process the application is. I'm going to highlight a few of the conditions from the Plan Commission's hearing that was last week. And then I'm going to let Brian Satches and his architect provide some background on the proposed improvements. So I just have a quick couple of slides just to orient folks, like I mentioned. Tonight they're bringing forth an application and make some modifications to the South Campus. The first is that they are proposing to put some new ticket booths on some existing foundations over by the football field. So on the screen you'll see the first circle. That's where the new ticket booths are proposed. Ticket taking operations are already occurring here. They are just proposing to make some rather small buildings to let those who are taking those tickets, those volunteers, have a little bit of shelter from inclement weather. The next you'll see is where the new cafeteria is proposed. So existing, you'll see on the other side where it says music renovation. Currently, where that music renovation is labeled is actually where the cafeteria is now. they're proposing to switch the location back over here and make an expansion into their existing courtyard that is screened on all sides by existing building. And then they'll move the music wing that is already in that area over to this location. As part of the new cafeteria, they're also proposing a new loading dock on that side of the building to service the new cafeteria. And then lastly, they're proposing a new cooling tower next to 2 existing cooling towers to allow for 90% of the building to now have air conditioning. So the public came out to the public hearing, which was last week on March 4th, so exactly a week ago. At that time, we received comment both before the hearing and at the hearing related to 3 general topics, which was noise from the existing and proposed cooling towers, appearance of those existing and proposed cooling towers, and then concerns about construction traffic and how that would impact the residential streets. So the Plan Commission reviewed it along with a general concept from the applicant that they provided at the hearing to both screen the cooling towers with landscaping and with also screening material. So the Plan Commission reviewed their application and the information provided at the hearing. And in front of you tonight on your dais, you have 2 documents which are updated from the published packet. The first one is the recommendation from the Plan Commission. You have the draft version that was not signed. We were able to get it signed over the weekend, and you have it before you. I'm going to highlight a couple of conditions out of the Plan Commission's recommendation as they are topical to the comments that we got from the Plan Commission from the public. So the first is recommendation number 3 on page 9 of the recommendation. This is a requirement that all 3 cooling towers are to be screened on the south and west side by either a new masonry solid fence or chain link. And basically, the condition boils down to that the cooling towers themselves need to be screened at a height between 8 and 12 feet, depending on what's recommended by the sound engineer. And also screened by vegetative landscaping to a height of the cooling tower, which is roughly 12 feet to the top of it. Additionally, I'm going to draw your attention to condition 5, which is that the applicant, before any permit from the village, would have to be accompanied by a report from a certified sound engineer to show that the cooling towers will comply with the village's standards for noise, which are found in Title 5 of our code. And then the last one I'm going to draw your attention to is number 7, which is on page 10. And that's that the school will do everything commercially reasonable to install and maintain the sound dampening improvements, whether that be landscaping and wall or a combination of the 2. And will maintain that landscaping. So the Plan Commission, with the 8 recommendations, the few that I highlighted for you, did recommend approval of the application to move it forward, which is why the Planning and Zoning Committee reviewed it last Thursday and had a discussion about it. So I'm going to let Brian Thatches come up now with his architect and provide some background information and then a more detailed review of the proposed improvements.
Before they start, Heather, could you repeat that, what you said about which are controlled by the Board of Education and which we get?
Absolutely. So the Board of Education, it's under their authority to issue their building permit, but the school does require approval from the village for both the zoning component, the use component, and then additionally any site improvements, so stormwater management, hardscape improvements.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brian Stashak. I am the Director of Business Services and the Treasurer for Lyons Township High School District 204. Thank you for allowing us to address the group this evening. With me is John Morosky from DLA Architects, the principal architect on our project here. And so what we thought we'd start with tonight is a little bit of history on why we're here and why we're looking at these projects. So first of all, Every 10 years, Lyons Township High School District 204 has the ability to sell bonds, just as you were talking about a few minutes ago. And so all of that process we finished really in the fall and sold bonds for capital project improvements, these projects that we're talking about tonight. The district never uses any of those bond proceeds, or has not, for any other purposes other than capital projects. And so just to give you a little bit of history, the last 20 years, let's say, in 2004, 2005, there was a bond sale, and the improvements that were made, the majority of them were at South Campus. That included the swimming pool, the Performing Arts Center, and then also the field house. And then in 2014-15, bonds were sold again, and there were improvements made to the North Campus, which included the renovation of the cafeteria. That also built out into an existing courtyard, and then also the renovation of the Reber Center, which is the auditorium. Now, those were the major projects there. There were other pieces of that, roofing, plumbing, all of those kinds of things, but those are the major pieces that everybody sees. And so we knew about a year and a half ago that we were going to be coming up on the potential for another bond sale here in 2024 and 2023 and 2024. And so at that particular point, we wanted to figure out what direction we wanted to go with these projects. And so ultimately, we decided that the best way to look at this was to engage the community. And engaging the community included, of course, our students and our staff, also parents, and really anyone else who wanted to get involved in talking to us and letting us know what they thought we should have as part of these projects. And in fact, we ran a survey, a formal survey with DLA Architects, looking to gather all of that data from all of those members that we just mentioned. And so when we finished with that survey, there were several items, many items, I guess I should say, that came to the top that we then had to kind of look through and decide which ones we were going to prioritize. And the cafeteria at South Campus was one of those. First of all, let me say that our building and grounds team does a great job of maintaining our facilities, yet they are older. And so, the renovation is probably warranted based on, again, the age of the facility and really giving the students a great place to sit and have lunch and enjoy some time while they're at school. So that was one of the projects we talked about. In addition to that, we will now be renovating the existing music wing, which is in the G wing at South Campus. That will become part of the cafeteria. The existing cafeteria will become the new music wing. In addition to that, what other projects came to the top? Well, washrooms. If you've been to the washrooms at South Campus, you know that they are all original to the construction of the building. So whether it was the original building or the additions, those are all original and certainly are in need of some modernization at this point. Included in those would be the plumbing to those facilities as well, and of course accessibility issues related to those washrooms also, which will be handled in this renovation. So in addition to that, also a new elevator would be installed in the facility for accessibility as well. That would be part of the cafeteria. Common spaces, those came to the top of the list from students, asking for areas where they can meet in groups to talk, to work, to congregate, whatever the case may be, before and after school. So those came to the top as well. Classroom renovations. Many of our classrooms are original to all of our facilities. Now, the classroom renovations that we're looking at would, under this particular plan, take place at our North Campus. So really not the classroom renovations here for South Campus, but for North Campus. We also talked about, of course, the stormwater issue, which is part of the permitting here as well, to what we're looking at. And so there's some plans for obviously moving stormwater around as well. And so we took all of this information. Again, then we went back to, in particular our student focus groups, saying, hey, look, here's the things that came to the top. How do you feel about these things? Great, this is what we're looking for, and this is really what we would hope to have here at the end of these projects. And so really that's the majority of the project. Again, there's other pieces to that. There's some roofing that's involved. Oh, by the way, air conditioning. Let me not forget that, because that's the reason for the third cooling tower at the South Campus facility. And so pretty much at the end of this project, really most of South Campus will be air conditioned. We still have some areas to go, but our school board has been focused really on adding air conditioning to those facilities, and that would also be true of North Campus as well in the future. And so we've made a real push over the last 5 years to do that, and we're continuing to do that as well. So really that's the reason, obviously, as we talked about, for the cooling tower. So I didn't want to forget about that. Any questions at all on any of those projects, how we got there, and why we're here today?
No, that was very comprehensive. I have 2 students. I have a student at South and a student at North, so I think they might not miss some of these renovations, but it sounds great.
Yeah, I think, well, we know many of the renovations are much needed.
Yes.
And again, like I said, we've had the opportunity every 10 years to do that, and so here we are now, and so that's why we're bringing these forward to you today. So that being said, if there are no other further questions on the renovations themselves, I'm going to let John take the microphone and talk a little bit about what we talked about at the last 2 meetings, the committee meeting and then the planning commission meeting, and we'll be happy to answer some questions after that as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening. Okay, Heather did a great job navigating the site plan, so I won't reiterate the areas of work, but I will break it down once we go into the floor plans. So if you go to the first floor plan, please. This beige area will be the proposed Commons Cafeteria addition. This is completely in the courtyard, will not be viewed from the outside. Part of this renovation project will also include a full upgrade of the courtyard, so all exits leading into the courtyard would be ADA accessible. That includes all the walking paths from each door to the opposite door, all the way through the courtyard. This location would be the new receiving dock. That location is necessary for all the deliveries for the cafeteria, since we're relocating the cafeteria. This is where the existing cafeteria is now, and this is where the existing loading dock is, which will stay for all the main deliveries for the school. This will also be the student drop-off entrance from the bus, which there's an existing entrance there. We are remodeling it in order to bring equipment into the courtyard for renovation. This is where the existing music wing is currently, G wing, and this will become the serving lines and kitchen right here. Again, this would become the music wing. So no addition on the southwest corner. We're just revising the facade and remodeling the inside. Okay. Second floor plan. This hatched area, this would be the breakout spaces, the commons area that we're talking about. It'll be used before and after school. There's also a hallway connection, which is where the elevator will be located, right in this corner. So that will give you access from the middle of the building to the east wing of the building. This enlarged floor plan is the addition of the Commons Cafeteria, and then this is also the proposed remodeling of the courtyard. So we have a circular path going around, and there's 4 exits, 1 in each corner, and all those will have ADA access to the courtyard. This area in the front, this will be the south of the courtyard. This will be seating for the students during lunchtime and before and after school. On the right-hand side, so this will be the north end, this is the receiving dock and the revised entrance with a screen wall between it. Yes, so the underground storm trap will be located right around here, and that is a requirement for storm detention. Once that storm trap fills up, there is an existing pipe that runs west.
That will fill up that pipe, and then the stormwater will be heading west, so that existing pipe runs underneath the building. Just an enlarged floor plan and elevations of the proposed ticket booths by the football field. This would be the student drop-off remodeled entrance, two-story clear story space. You can see the recessed dock in the corner here. And then a masonry wall and a fence to screen each area. Here's a rendering of the cafeteria commons addition. So this would be, again, in the courtyard. Here's your circular path. All these trees are existing. Glass wall looking into the commons cafeteria. This would be the remodeled new music wing facade. Again, this is the existing cafeteria in the southwest corner. This would be a new facade, brick, fiber cement panels, new windows. Again, no addition, same footprint, same foundation, just reskinning the outside on the southwest corner. No, that's fine. Keep going. Sure. Windows are non-operable. These are all fixed. No noise transfer through them during music play. It is a taller volume as recommended for the music wing, which is why there's a taller volume here and here.
There is also the drawing, I think, of the cooling towers.
This is the existing cooling tower, which we're calling cooling tower 1, existing cooling tower 2, and this is the proposed cooling tower 3. So this would be the last cooling tower needed to air condition the building. Here are the proposed fence and shrubs around the cooling tower.
Arborvitaes.
Sure. The recommended fence enclosure height and materiality will be recommended by our acoustical engineer, and that will be submitted documentation, materiality, and height to the village for approval.
What surrounds it now?
Right now, there's a 6-foot tall chain link fence with windscreen, I believe, on the inside of the fence.
And the trees, the shrubs, right?
Correct. There's 3 arborvitaes right now. We are proposing to double layer around the privacy fence. The exact layout, we're also going to submit a landscaping plan from our landscape architect for approval.
And just one thing real quick as well. You may have heard that there were pine trees around the existing cooling towers, and that is true. And they did, potentially the thought was that they did provide some, sound deadening there. The problem was that the pine trees were actually causing mechanical issues with the cooling towers because the needles, as they would fall off, would essentially stick to the cooling towers themselves and actually cause issues with the operation with those. So that was one of the reasons. I know people some were not happy about us removing those, but the reality was we kind of had to because of the mechanical issues that they were causing with those machines.
Is there another slide after this?
What are you looking for?
I think this is, if there's any questions on anything, I'm happy to address it. But so that's what we're proposing. We owe the village recommendation, materiality, and fence height, and a landscape design around the cooling towers.
Any questions, comments, anything else from the committee?
So I do remember you had sound engineering come out and test, I think it was 60 decibels, which is like loud conversation at 130 feet away. And that's your target or your goal to?
So we do have sound data from the cooling towers, from the manufacturer. Part of the presentation would be the sound engineer would come back after installation and do a field test to get the decibel level.
But it's estimated at combined 65 decibels.
Combined is 65.34.
But
Correct.
then as you, obviously, as with any kind of noise, the further away you get, that's dropping.
You would get a 5 to 7 reduction at the property line, correct?
And that's loud conversation, not rock band or trains or whistles or.
No, that is correct.
It's just conversations.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So for the new cafeteria and those new doorways, are you expanding the doorway entrance that's next to the loading dock? Like, I don't know how many doors there are now. I know a lot of students enter the building on that north side. My kids enter the building on the north side because we live north of the.
That exit 25 that
Yeah.
you're referring to is currently the exit or entrance where all of our bus riding students
Oh, they
exit and
all-
enter the
yeah?
building there.
Okay.
Yeah, so the buses come around, drop off the students, and then all of those students that are bus riders go in and out of that exit currently.
So are you making it bigger, more doors, or is it the same size as?
Can you go to the floor plan of that?
Yep.
No, no, you just.
Should be 3 sets of double doors in there. And the whole reason for the Commons cafeteria location is the central hub of the school.
Right.
So when students come in, instead of
Yeah.
navigating all the way to the back corner of the cafeteria, they have this central hub now, before school, after school. And we didn't point out, but this box right in the middle is a tiered learning stair,
Oh, yes.
which
Okay.
will have like, auditorium seating for presentations. Kids can sit there and mingle before school, after school. So that'll be located right in the middle. And that does connect to the corridor extension as well.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's the same size. I was wondering if it was. Well, excellent. And then I guess I feel like from a safety perspective, since that is going to be a central location for students, it is fully encompassed in the school. And like right now, the cafeteria is like doors and outward facing, so it seems like a safety.
Correct. And we are proposing a security desk right in the front as well.
Okay. And then is there generally any flooding issues in that courtyard now? I mean, is there any major flooding issues around South Campus?
No, the reason for the detention is the pipes that are running north and running east are maxed out. So instead of replacing those pipes for disturbance, it actually is cheaper to do a storm trap in the courtyard. Yeah.
My student told me about that tiered seating. That's like what they have at all the college campuses. where
Correct.
Kids hang out, and it's like, that's really cool.
They have a really cool one at Stevenson. We're just in a water polo tournament.
Mhm.
The kids are always hanging out there.
Correct.
Any other questions? We really appreciate the detail and the presentation. I appreciate the things that we're still hear back from to deal with or to accommodate some of the sound, that we want to make sure we address that for the nearby residents. But overall, this seems like a terrific renovation to the school. Our schools are one of our great assets here in Western Springs, so we appreciate that on behalf of the residents and the students, that this kind of the continued attention and the renovations. So appreciate that kind of coming up to some of the modern standards like other schools apparently that you're attending. So thanks for the information. Any other final questions?
If I could really quickly, I had mentioned during my presentation that there are 2 documents that are on the dais here tonight. One is the fully signed recommendation from the Plan Commission we reviewed earlier. The second is a draft ordinance that also mirrors the proposed recommendation from the Plan Commission. Given that the applicant is still working on the screening piece for the cooling towers, the drafted ordinance now does request that plan be submitted. So at this time, the high school will be bringing back to likely the April 8th workshop that proposal with the screening both from the fencing or masonry wall and the landscaping to be reviewed here. And then the next scheduled voting meeting, it would be brought for formal consideration on April 22nd. At this time, it does appear that the bulk of the discussion is related to the screening of the cooling towers. The applicant has been given a copy of both of these items and has stated previously to staff that they intend on complying with the conditions. So given that there is this stormwater detention piece, the village will have to allow MWRD to review it before we can issue our permit. I would ask if the board has any objection to just the stormwater piece being preliminarily reviewed by the MWRD. Does anyone have any objections to that occurring? Of course, no permit would be issued from the village until final consideration and approval from the board in April, potentially.
No objections.
Thank you.
Okay. Very good. Thank you very much. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. And yes?
I'm sorry, one final point that I forgot to mention earlier. If any of you have any questions or you want to take a look at this a little bit more in depth on the district's website, you can look at the section, it's called Groundwork for a Brighter Future. And if you click on that, you'll see all of this information, some of these pictures that are up there, the funding sources, all of that, and it's all there for you.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you both. All right. Trustee Naraki, back to you.
Yes. So next item on the list is the Property Improvement Grant Program request for 814 Hillgrove Avenue roof repairs. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. In January, the village board approved the Property Improvement Grant Program. The program was designed to facilitate reinvestment into the existing building stock located within the downtown TIF districts. Applications requesting grant awards that are $5,000 or less are approved administratively by the Director of Community Development. Applications requesting more than that $5,000 are required to be reviewed by the Economic Development Commission before being formally considered by the village board. The application on tonight's meeting agenda is the first application since the adoption of the program that has requested an award greater than $5,000. The applicant is seeking the grant to make repairs to the roof of the building. Assistant Director of Community Development, Heather Vallone, will provide more information. Heather, can you provide a status of the program?
I sure can. Thank you, Trustee Naraki. So the applicant, whose paperwork you see before you tonight, is the tenant of the building at 814 Hillgrove. That's the Clarity Physical Therapy and Wellness Facility. So Craig Maudsley, who is the owner of that business, has applied to do some significant roof repairs. So previously, that space was two separate buildings. And in 2014, they renovated it for the single user, which is Clarity. So there actually are two separate buildings there, but they have interiorly have been combined. However, their roofs are actually still technically separate. So as part of that renovation, they did some maintenance to that roof. However, they did not make any significant changes to it. Since that time, unfortunately, the way that the back roof is pitched has caused water and other nuisances to end up inside because water is pooling at the intersection of those two roofs. So the applicant has submitted for a grant to take off the back roof, re-pitch it so it actually flows to the rear instead of pitching towards the seam between the two roofs, and then additionally repair some other items related to a pipe that is in the middle of the two roofs. The Economic Development Commission reviewed this at their meeting last week. They found that it met the standards for granting approvals. Additionally, the maximum grant award that can be requested for this type of work in this type of use is $7,000 or 50% of the total improvement. The total improvement will well exceed $20,000, and so they are requesting the max $7,000 for their roof. The applicant was not unable to join us tonight, but at the EDC meeting, he described, as I did, the interior nuisances. They've actually had to replace the roof, they've had to repair the roof at least 3 times, and they're still getting water in due to the water pooling at the seam of the two roofs. So the application is again on your docket tonight to be reviewed and potentially move to the April 22nd meeting if you are interested to do so.
Great. Thank you so much, Heather, for that. Appreciate it. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay. And that concludes my report for tonight.
All right. Very good. Thank you very much. All right. Moving on to Properties and Recreation. Trustee Avakian.
Thank you. So in your packets this evening for consideration for a vote is an ordinance authorizing the disposal of a surplus of personal property owned by the Village of Western Springs. It's a bunch of file cabinets, a couple chairs, things that are broken and really super old. A memo from staff along with a photo inventory of the items is included in the packet this evening. The identified items will be placed on publicsurplus.com for auction. I would like to make a motion to include the following item in the omnibus vote for this evening. And that technically is an ordinance authorizing the disposal of surplus property owned by the Village of Western Springs.
So that motion will go toward the omnibus later.
Okay.
No need to second it at this point.
Okay. Great. Next up is the 2024 Arbor Day Proclamation. The Arbor Day Proclamation was founded by the Arbor Day Foundation in 1976. The Tree City USA program provides assistance and recognition to incorporated communities that maintain a continuously active tree management program. In 2023, the village celebrated its 36th year as a Tree City USA community. To continue our participation in this program, the village must approve a proclamation each spring in addition to its other active tree management programs. The proclamation is as follows. The proclamation Arbor Day, April 26, 2024. Whereas in 1872, J. Sterling Morton proposed to the Nebraska Board of Agriculture that a special day be set aside for planting of trees. And whereas this holiday called Arbor Day was first observed with the planting of more than 1 million trees in Nebraska, and whereas Arbor Day is now observed throughout the nation and the world, and whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water by cutting and cooling costs, moderating the temperature, cleaning the air, produce oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable source giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas the Village of Western Springs has been recognized as Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and deserves to continue its tree planting ways. Now therefore, we, the members of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Western Springs, Cook County, Illinois, acting by and through the village president, do hereby proclaim April 26, 2024 as Arbor Day and urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands and to support our city's community forestry program. And further, we urge all citizens to plant trees and gladden the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Gardening makes a world of difference.
Good enough. Thank you. All right. Anything else? Okay, moving on.
Oh,
then.
sorry, nothing else.
Okay. Moving on to public health and safety. Trustee Lewis.
Thank you, President Rudolph. Our committee met last week to consider a proposal to eliminate almost all on-street parking on the east side of Central Avenue as it runs past Spring Rock Park between Burlington Avenue and 47th Street. Currently, parking with restrictions is allowed on the east side of the street. That portion of Central Avenue was reconstructed last year. While planning and designing the project, the village determined the road would need to be widened if we wanted to continue offering parking on both sides of the street and also meet state roadway design guidelines. During a series of meetings prior to construction, residents voiced strong opposition to widening the street. The majority indicated a preference to provide on-street parking only on the west side of the street, which would eliminate the need to widen the road and also not impact their parkway areas. Consequently, the project was designed and constructed to provide on-street parking on the west side of Central Avenue. As part of this process, the Transportation and Safety Commission met February 26 and voted to recommend that east side on-street parking be eliminated between Burlington Avenue and 47th Street. However, following the February 26th Transportation Safety Commission meeting, village staff heard from a business owner at 4479 Central Avenue, near the intersection of Burlington and Central. He indicated the small businesses there have limited on-site parking, and customers often have a tough time finding a place to park. The owner is concerned that further parking restrictions could have a serious negative impact on those businesses. After reviewing the situation, our committee is recommending on-street parking continue to be allowed on the east side of Central Avenue adjacent to that one commercial property, but be prohibited the rest of the way down to 47th Street. So, the Public Health and Safety Committee is asking that these parking changes be placed on the omnibus tonight and are recommending approval by the full board. And happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from anybody?
So you're keeping the residence part the same, just that one building gets, people can park there?
Yes.
Okay.
Very well explained.
Yep, I think we
Mhm.
Yes.
Right down to the.
Yeah.
I saw them.
And that's all I have.
Okay, very good. Then that will move and is on the omnibus then tonight. Thank you very much. Okay, Public Works and Water, Trustee Fink.
All right, thank you, President Rudolph. The first item is Public Works was recommending accepting the intergovernmental agreement with the Village of Western Springs and the State of Illinois through IDOT. So IDOT is going to be working on the intersection of Wolf and Ogden. They're going to change the lights out. They're going to do some like minor changes to the intersection. But the sensors that are on top of the lights that detect emergency vehicles, it will change it to green as they go through. That's the village's responsibility. And so when they take those out and put the new lights up, we're gonna have to buy new sensors. I guess we can't reuse the old sensors, which was my idea. So that there's an estimate of $7,935, but again, that's only an estimate. So IDOT's gonna do it, and they will tell us later what we own. So the next item is water restrictions. So currently, and so this is just something for us to think about and kind of gauge interest of, as a board. Is this something we want to address? Currently, we don't really have a watering policy. What happens is people can water anytime they want, and then end of July, beginning of August, we hit a drought, and all of a sudden there are watering restrictions. And the problem with that is no one really knows when they kick in, so people are watering what they're not supposed to. So the thought is have a universal watering plan that's going to be from mid-May to the end of August. Odds and evens. The Public Works group did a great job of like, what do all of our neighbors do? And it seemed we thought simplest was best, odds and evens. But Matt, anything else? Am I describing this well enough?
No, you've hit the main points. Really, we're looking for some discussion this evening from the board about this item. This is kind of, again, spurred by the last several years. We've had to implement some emergency watering initiatives due to drought conditions throughout the state of Illinois. This also falls in line with some of the strategic plans that the village board has identified for green initiatives. All of the dates that Trustee Fink referenced in here are from lake water communities, which is predominantly in our area. As part of the Illinois Department of Natural Resources, they are required to have these watering restrictions in place if you're a lake water community. As Trustee Fink mentioned, again, most of the communities around us do a May 15th to September 15th date, with even and odd watering days associated with your address on your home. So we wanted to open it up for the board to get feedback, gain general interest on that. If there is direction to staff to move forward, we would come back with a modification to the village ordinance, modification to the village code, probably at the next board cycle.
Not only Director Supert is here tonight, but also the village's new water superintendent, Ron Darengowski, is here in case you have specific questions.
Did you guys have a determination after discussing in committee?
We thought just the like odds and evens. I mean, some towns have, for some reason, you can't water the last day of the month. I don't know why that's out there, but something that's just easy enough that we can just implement and people can just know without having to.
Well, and as he said, like, everyone around us does it. It's not abnormal.
Right.
Well, we are in a lake water source community. We have our own wells. So I'm a little gun shy about having restrictions when we don't need them.
Well, I think the problem they were talking about is when these droughts were happening, and if you're watering, let's say it's August and it's 150 million degrees out, it's really not watering anything. So you're kind of just using water and it's not serving.
We could have restrictions at that time. But I don't think we need to have them when there isn't a problem, when it's raining like crazy. We have our well water. It's one of the nice things about living here. You hate to restrict the revenues coming in to the water department, which needs many improvements. So I would be fine with restrictions when we need them, when we have effective ways of getting the word out at those times. And I'll further add, and this is a real first world problem, but On the automatic sprinkler system, mine, for example, it's not odd even, it's days of the week. So it would be better for the Lewises and some others, I'm sure, if it was like a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday, rather than trying to odd and even numbers, because you can't really program. Mine is maybe so old, but that's something I ran into when we did have the restrictions last time. So I think one of the nice things about living here is we do control our own destiny with the water. We have the wells. We dug our third well. I think we're in great shape, and I hate to restrict the revenue to the water department. And if we do have an issue, we have many means of getting the word out.
The sprinkler system's a great point. That's what I was thinking too. How do they set that accordingly with every other day?
But the other people in the other towns are doing the even odd, aren't they?
Well, I think there's
Depends on the
different
towns.
methods.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's.
Okay. I see the point. I think we have had to implement restrictions for the past several years. And I personally do find it confusing as to when they go into effect. And I have pretty good access to our information. So I do think that ends up being a little bit confusing to residents. Other thoughts, opinions?
I'd like to know, maybe you could answer this. Do people have to water the lawns every day to keep them green?
No, there's a recommendation for.
Ron,
Oh,
can you
we're
use
gonna
the
need you.
microphone?
Oh, yeah.
Behind you, there's a microphone right behind you.
There's really not a recommendation to water every single day. There is a weekly precipitation amount or amount of watering for grass and lawns, but you do not have to water it every day. As long as you meet a certain threshold for the week, you could get by with reduction of water.
Hey, Ron, if we limit somehow in May and June, would it possibly stop all the drought restrictions? Like, could people just keep doing the same thing the whole summer as opposed to, usually don't we have like 4 or 5 weeks where there's no watering at all? I'm not a waterer, so I'm not up to this.
We did do emergency restrictions over the last several years, as noted, and it is very difficult to reach everyone in the community. We do use social media, as Trustee Lewis said. We've got a website and social media and things like that, but it is a little challenging to kind of suddenly decide that we are having to do emergency restrictions. I think that
So if the emergency restrictions, is that no watering at all?
we did no outdoor watering
Right, so.
last summer.
Correct, so there's been a couple times, I'd say over the past 5 years, I don't know exactly off the top of my head, but we've had drought conditions that have arisen as the summer has progressed. And in those specific scenarios, we did implement a no outdoor watering during the day. So in the evenings or early in the mornings, people would be allowed to water. We also did allow specific provisions for people who had new lawns or sod to allow them for water. So it's not a situation where we're saying, hey, you can't water at all. What we're really trying to combat in most cases is excessive watering, watering where people are watering at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in August. And to Manager Bear's point, one of the issues that we've really struggled with from a staff standpoint is the enforcement. We don't really have the staff to drive around and actively enforce these kind of implementations when they go on and off. I've literally had residents who come to me who either didn't know that that a restriction was placed or kind of honestly didn't really care, and they would continue to water. So it's been difficult because when people aren't fully aware and it's kind of implemented evenly across all situations, it's hard to keep that enforcement in place.
So that would be another consideration of, that the board might want to take, is that you could have certain hours, because as Trustee Fink mentioned, when you do water at the peak of the heat, it really just burns off, and it doesn't do an effective job of watering your lawn or your plants. So that's another option. You could restrict just to certain hours of the day, which might help in situations where you have a timer set for a sprinkler system. And 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. is kind of what we saw in some communities, and then 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. I think earlier in the day is more recommended to reduce the potential for mold and other things to build up overnight in a dark situation. But 7 to 11 is what I've seen in other communities, and I think we had some feedback from some communities about that.
So just a little bit of clarification on the past restrictions. Have we, this is where I don't know the answer to that. Do we start out and we do the
Reduced.
even odd days? So they're reduced.
Reduced hours of the day.
So we
and
started
I
with that.
Don't know if we did odds and evens.
We've actually done it in both ways, depending on the severity of the drought that was in question. So last year, for example, we actually implemented a complete watering restriction ban because the drought that occurred in northern Illinois was so severe. In previous situations, we did implement an even odd situation similarly, but that kind of just goes on to tell about the confusion that we've had in the community.
That's my question. Did we begin with an even odd and then switch to a full restriction?
Not last year. What we've done in the past is we would implement one thing and remain with that for the duration of that season. But over the past 5 years, we've had different scenarios that we implemented based on the severity of the droughts, which again I think is kind of what has led to some of the confusion that we've interacted with people in the community.
I think sticking with one thing in a season is recommended. If I have to put out an emergency notice, I don't want to have to change that 3 weeks later or even a week later sometimes, because the droughts do sometimes, as they go on, become more severe.
Does restricting the middle of the day hours do the same purpose as, serve the same purpose as even and odd? Does it get the same end result?
It's a good question. I think we would have to kind of look at the math and how the plant responds to the fill time. So typically in the summer, what we're responding to is we are filling up our water system into the evenings. When we had that severe drought situation last night, we were running the plant and the operations almost 24 hours a day. We were not able to shut equipment down to recuperate and have the wells and the deep aquifers recuperate. So that's why we wanted to implement in that specific case last year, because of the severity, a complete watering ban during the days. Because even then we were only able to shut down for a handful of hours to get that full system back up. Again, it depends on the severity of the weather conditions and other operational conditions of our equipment from a year-to-year basis. So I couldn't give you a specific answer in all cases. But if you look back at last year, it was a very severe drought that hit northern Illinois.
Oh, sorry for the basic question. 2 questions. So when there's a drought, are wells starting to not have enough water?
No, I don't want to create a situation of we're not having enough water. It's more a situation of, with our current system, we can produce and treat a certain volume of water within a 24-hour through the water treatment plant. And if demand pulling from that is extremely high, especially for non-potable uses, that puts additional strain on our equipment and our overall treatment process. We are able to produce actually a fairly significant amount of water if we don't bring that water through the treatment plant and treat it with the full softening process. And we also have the ability to adjust that softening process to bypass water, but there's trade-offs with that. If we're bypassing a higher percentage of water from the softening process, you're going to have higher water, higher dissolved solids, TDS in the distribution system, and people might notice that in the drinking water.
Okay, so it's a demand issue and going through that.
It's also when we're making our money from the water department. So I think the concern should be more on the impact on the water service that we're providing, not so much on telling people when we can water their plants in the morning or at night. So just going back, I kind of hate to have restrictions when we don't need them. And when we need them, I'm all for it.
Would you be okay if it was, we just took out that heat of the day type of restriction?
Not if we don't need to. And that's when we're making hay.
Well, I just have my second question. And the watering restrictions usually go into effect in July and August. I mean, is that the most common?
So the emergency restrictions that we've put in place in the past few years have been in the, I would say, second half of the summer, historically. The watering restrictions that are required by lake water community users are that May to September 15th time frame.
Right, they go through the whole. I'm not trying to come to a compromise.
Oh, I'm fine.
Well, I mean, if it's the later summer where we're struggling to keep up with demand, maybe we consider it starting July 1st. I don't know. I'm just brainstorming.
If we do struggle to keep up, that's when I would come to you and let you know that I was going to enact the emergency order. So rather than plan for 6 weeks of summer, it would probably be better to just stick with the process we have now, where I would invoke that emergency authority to change the restrictions. I think the goal of this discussion was to look at both the past 5 years to say we've pretty much done an emergency every summer. Do we want something that's more long-term? And then sort of the best management practices of what we see our neighboring communities doing in terms of water conservation, best management practices. But to Trustee Lewis's point, one of our business lines is selling water. And so there is certainly a benefit to having people utilize our water in higher quantities during the summer months.
But if you're just giving them a few hours off to rest, so to speak, to let the machines recoup, you can, especially if you have a sprinkler system, you can schedule it to go at 10 a.m. instead of 2 p.m. I mean, you're still selling water, it's just at a different hour of the day, right?
I would think people would adjust, because if they like to water their lawn daily, they'll still do that. They'll just set their timer at that point. So you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I find that to be kind of a compromise. I mean, it's not great to not really supposed to water in the heat of the day anyway. It evaporates, you burn off. I mean, I don't do it. It burns my plants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that seems, then the systems could accommodate that too if it were every day. So I'm in favor of that kind of.
Well, what if we just kick this back to Public Works and we'll come up with something a little more structured the next meeting?
Okay.
And one last thought is, I've seen where some communities, when you do have the restriction, they allow watering by hand.
Yep.
That brings their new plants.
Yeah. I thought that's always been the case, that you
Is
can
that
water
the
your
case?
plants. It's just the lawn. Is that correct? Am I saying that right?
Mhm.
That's typically what we would recommend.
Yep.
Yeah. So you can still water at all your annuals and pots and things like that.
Yeah, we understand people want to water their plants.
Oh,
That's
those are
certainly priority for people, right?
What does enforcement of someone watering on a day they're not supposed to water look like?
Good question. So right now, because we don't have specific language in our municipal code, and really it's not staff's goal. We don't want to be out there writing tickets. But in the most extreme end of it, it could be a ticket to a resident who might be a repeat offender who's causing issues.
Real quick, what we said about, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but what we were also talking about is it's kind of a green initiative too, so it's a suggestion. I mean, even if you can't mandate it, and they're not gonna go drive around and give everyone tickets, they don't have the manpower for that. But anyone that's willing to do it, and if it's 75 or 80% of the people that are willing to do it, like there's some green potential consequences.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's a great point. But more commonly, the way we've handled it, to date is we have door hangers at Public Works. Any of our staff who are driving around, if they're going to another event or something, and if they see an incident, if the person's out there, we'll just go up and talk to them. Otherwise, we'll put a door hanger on the door and just say, hey, we want to let you know that watering restrictions are currently in effect. And we've had the full range of responses. I would say the vast majority of people are cooperative on that, or say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't actually realize we had watering restrictions in place right now. But we have had some people who have challenged us on that. And we don't have a lot of tools at our disposal right now to address those challenges.
Thanks for explaining.
Okay. I think that's a good discussion.
I like the idea about kicking it back. Put the specification based on what's being banned about here.
Next month, we'll get you. All right, our last item is Public Works was recommending the lease of a Peterbilt dump truck through Enterprise Fleet Management Leasing Program. So Enterprise, as a village, we're trying to lease more vehicles as opposed to purchase them. And Enterprise Fleet Management approached the village about a lease of a 2024 Peterbilt Model 548 dump truck. We need a dump truck, but we didn't have the money to buy it, so it was slated to purchase in a couple of years. The lease would be $4,460.83 per month. And this wouldn't start till July for a total of $26,764.98. Plus an extra $10,000 to retrofit it for snow plows and other things. And so this would get paid for through a $60,000 budget line item for the purchase of a pickup truck. So earlier this year, we decided to lease 2 different pickup trucks. So between the 2 pickup trucks and the dump truck will still be underneath the $60,000 line item for that. So we're recommending the lease of the Peterbilt truck.
Any question?
Will we still buy the dump truck in the future with getting this one?
No, we would just keep this one.
Just keep that one?
Well, I think there's two
Yeah.
dump trucks on the.
Great question.
on the
Yes.
dock.
So the dump truck that we approved last fall, that is still on order. That is the purchase that is going to be moving forward. We're looking at approximately a 300 to 380 day turnaround for that. This truck identified here was one we were actually going to request for purchase in next year's budget process. It was the next one up on the list scheduled for replacement. So because we had this opportunity to lease it come through, we wanted to jump at that opportunity for this lease cycle. And then we will, when we get into the budget process for later this summer to discuss next year's budget, we will adjust our vehicle replacement schedule accordingly and bring that through the board for discussion.
Okay, great, thanks.
That's all I have.
All right, very good, thank you very much. Okay, the next item is a reappointment to the Police Pension Board. I am recommending reappointment of Michael Sorge to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term that will expire in May 2026, and that would also be on the omnibus. All right, let's move on to our next item, and this is consideration of one of our special meeting portions of the combined workshop and special meeting agenda, and this is specifically Trustee Chen, the ordinance for the issuance of the bonds.
Now I feel bad, I read it before and I'm gonna read it again, but you guys have to do it twice. Okay, ordinance number 24-3177, authorizing the issuance of waterworks and sewerage revenue bonds of the village in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,500,000, or in lieu thereof, general obligation bonds, parens, waterworks and sewage system alternate revenue source, end parens, new parens, said bonds being general obligation bonds for which real property taxes, unlimited as to rate or amount, may be levied, but which are expected to be paid from the net revenues of the combined waterworks and sewage system of the village, which includes the village's stormwater utility fee, end parens, in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $9,500,000 for the purpose of paying the cost of improving the stormwater portion of said system to alleviate flooding in the village.
Is there a second?
I will second the motion.
All right, any final questions? Okay, if not, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, Madam President. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Tyrrell.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Include the president, would you?
President Rudolph, excuse me.
Aye. Thank you. All right, thanks very much. All right, and now we will move on to the omnibus vote. The Illinois state statutes allow a municipality to collectively vote on a group of ordinances, resolutions, and other motions such as awards of contract, appointments, etc. This is known as an omnibus vote. All the items contained on the omnibus vote list have been previously discussed this evening by the President and Board of Trustees on at least one occasion and often on several occasions. By placing them on the omnibus vote list, a single vote may be taken to approve them. A trustee may remove any item from the list and have it discussed and voted on separately prior to the omnibus vote. Is there any such request tonight? No. All right, Trustee Terrell.
Thank you, Madam President. I move that the following ordinances, resolutions, and motions as contained on the meeting agenda for March 11th, 2024 be adopted and/or approved under an omnibus vote. Agenda item number 1, approval of the meeting minutes of February 26th, 2024, regular meeting, and February 26th, 2024, special meeting as read. Agenda item number 2, ordinance number 24-3178, disposal of surplus property owned by the Village of Western Springs, surplus office furniture and equipment. Agenda item number 3, ordinance number 24-3179, amending Title 7, that's Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 4, Traffic Schedules, Section 3, Schedule 3, Parking Limitations and Prohibitions of the Western Springs Municipal Code relative to posting quote, 4-hour parking from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Mondays through Fridays, end quote, on the east side of Central Avenue from the south right-of-way line of Burlington Avenue to a point 110 feet south of the south right-of-way line of Burlington Avenue, and, quote, no parking at any time, end quote, on the east side of Central Avenue from the north right-of-way line of 47th Street to a point 402 feet north of the north right-of-way line of Elm Street. Agenda item number 4, resolution number 24-2787, authorizing and approving the execution of an agreement between the Village of Western Springs, Illinois, and the State of Illinois, acting by and through the Illinois Department of Transportation for the installation and maintenance of an emergency vehicle preemption system and certain other pavement and pedestrian improvements at the intersection of Ogden Avenue, that's US Route 34, and Wolf Road, and approval of the expenditure of village funds to pay its share of the improvements. Agenda item number 5, motion to approve the BINA order calling for a public hearing on April 22nd, 2024 regarding consideration of issuance of waterworks and sewerage revenue bonds, or in the alternative, general obligation bonds, as waterworks and sewerage system alternative revenue source, aggregate principal bond amount not to exceed $9,500,000. Agenda item number 6, motion to waive the competitive bidding process in lieu of lease purchase of one 2024 Peterbilt Model 548 dump truck through the village's lease program with Enterprise Fleet Management Incorporated. It's a 48-month lease term beginning July 2024 in the amount of $4,460.83. Total 2024 6-month lease cost of $26,764.98 plus upfitting vehicle charge of $10,000. Agenda item number 7, motion to approve the reappointment of Michael Sorge to the Police Pension Board for a 2-year term to expire in May of 2026.
Thank you, Trustee Terrell. Do we have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Any last questions? All right. If not, may we have a roll call vote, please?
Yes, President Rudolph. Trustee Avakian.
Aye.
Trustee Chen.
Aye.
Trustee Fink.
Aye.
Trustee Lewis.
Aye.
Trustee Naraki.
Aye.
Trustee Terrell.
Aye.
President Rudolph.
Aye.
The ordinances, resolutions, and motions contained in the agenda of March 11th, 2024 are hereby adopted or approved.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to our reports, and I will begin with, just to reiterate a point that Trustee Chen mentioned at our last meeting about the issue at the state level that has a significant local impact if this should happen, that the governor's proposal to eliminate the 1% grocery sales tax. This particular grocery sales tax is dedicated to local governments. Just a reminder about how our primary operations are funded. We have our property taxes, of which, as you know, the village gets 12% of those. Income taxes that are part of the state's, the LGDF fund that Trustee Chen reports on often. And finally, sales tax, right? Those are our main 3 sources. This particular elimination, it equates to more than $500,000 for our funds. About $580,000 is the estimate. So it's about 4% of our budgeted revenue in the general fund, which is our main operating fund. So this is just, it's something, we've already had the LGDF reduced, if you recall, that at one point, which is based on income tax. At one point, that was 10%, and that's been cut back. It was down, I think, as low as 6 at one point. Now it's back up to 6.5%, but you can see then this combination of the reduction of revenues coming to us. Also, a reminder, the impact is, as a non-home rule community, we have limited power, I should say, to implement new taxes and fees. As you recall, we can implement taxes only if approved by voters in a referendum. And in 2022, the 1% sales tax referendum that we proposed did not pass. So this could be a serious impact to us and to our budget. You might be wondering, well, what can we do about it? Like many other communities, you know, we are reaching out to our state representatives and senators to voice our opposition to this massive revenue reduction, and working with other communities to speak in the same voice to the overall impact this has on our communities.
I say, is IMLL taking lobbying?
Yep, yep, there is a lot of, advocacy and outreach to the governor's office as well as, again, members of the General Assembly. But the combination of the LGDF reduction and then now potentially this would be a really significant impact to us. Yeah. So I just wanted to stress that we would, like we always have to, we have to try to get creative, or services or something has to give, right, when we're looking at that kind of reduction.
Should we be promoting people to write somebody or something?
We can do that. I mean, if people reach out individually to their members, we could provide some information on that.
This is affecting every municipality.
Correct. This is statewide.
I would think this would be a
Yeah.
pretty hot potato.
The total impact statewide is $325 million statewide. Yeah. But yes, Trustee Vakian, good suggestion. That's the kind of thing that our representatives, appreciate hearing from, our members of the community like that. So we can provide more information on that. On the other side, on good news, I'm very pleased to note a couple of our new businesses that have opened. The Foss Swim School. I don't know if anybody has had a chance. Most everybody's shocked that there can be a swimming pool in Garden Market.
It looks awesome.
But there actually is. It's a terrific addition to the community, great for our residents and neighbors, and it's quite an impressive site. I encourage you to at least look in the window there and see that. And then also we have Ella's Italian Pub, which had their soft opening on Friday and Saturday and opens officially tomorrow, I believe it is.
Also getting rave reviews.
Getting rave reviews.
Really? That was fast.
Yes, they moved right along, and they've got their tables outside. They're ready for the warm weather that's coming. So that's some good news that we've got some new, great new businesses in town, great for the community, and it's really nice to see them investing in Western Springs. So, with that concludes my report, and I will go to Manager Baer.
Sure, I just have a couple of items. Just a reminder that the 2024 vehicle sticker period is opening. Information was mailed out today and tomorrow to our residents, so everyone should receive something. Any Western Springs resident who own or lease a motor vehicle registered with the state of Illinois is asked to purchase that sticker by April 30th to avoid any late fees. There's a lot of information on our website about the stickers, and after March 13th, people would be able to purchase stickers online on an online portal, which is really nice. And then the other item I wanted to mention is that tonight you approved one of the property improvement program grants, but we have had several that were under the threshold that required board approval. And so I would like to ask Heather Vallone to give a quick update on the other items she has received in terms of property improvement grants that have been administratively approved.
So as Manager Baer just mentioned, there have been a number of applications that have been below the $5,000 threshold that is approved administratively by the Director of Community Development. So in total, we've had 8 applications. 2 of them have been for over $5,000. One you saw earlier in your agenda. Another one that is pending some additional submittals from the applicant. But 6 have actually been submitted for under $5,000. 5 of those have been approved. Just really quickly so that you can be oriented when you see some of these new things occur in downtown. So on the 900 block of Burlington, there is an existing home goods, vintage and garden store called the Design Studio. They have applied to replace their awning. You may be able to see on your screen, it is an older awning that actually does not comply with our sign code. They'll be replacing it with a new awning, both the address awning and the awning for their sign that will comply with code and be new. Additionally, the Uptown Shop, which is just west, over 2 locations, just west of the one I showed you before. They're a boutique that sells a number of goods, clothing, home decor, etc. They have also applied and been granted a grant to replace their awning. And then one more door over, which is currently the Salon Die Hard. And I apologize, it's cut off a little bit in this picture. They've also applied and been awarded a grant to replace their awning as well. The fourth one is, I'm sure many of you are familiar with BB's Donuts. They have also applied to replace their awnings as well. The last one that has been approved that I don't have in the slideshow is Petite V. Their new location at 909 Burlington. They have applied, they've already removed the hashtags awning, and they have applied to put up an awning with their branding material on it as well, again, that will comply with code. We have one more application that has been submitted, but not all documentation is in yet, but it is one that will be under $5,000 as well that I can update as you see them at your board meetings.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Great, thank you, that's great news. Those will all make a very nice difference along the street there. That's nice, thank you. Attorney Jerusik.
No further report tonight.
All right, very good, and that will conclude our agenda. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, I have a motion to adjourn tonight's combined workshop and special meeting of the President Board of Trustees.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good, we are adjourned, thank you.
Murphy's Law.
Really nice space.